I feel like talking. Today I want to talk about something that I've been meditating on, thinking of. A couple of days ago, I was out walking. On my walks, a lot of times I do vision walks, think about what the future, think about what God has for me. And then sometimes I think about this, God, like, what are you saying to me in this time and season, or what are you looking to do for me in this time and season of my life? And what I realized is sometimes when we ask God, He gives you the answer. And a lot of times, so you just got to make yourself available to what God says. So here it is. Today I want to talk about something if I can. I want to talk about legacy. I was again walking, and one of the words that came up in my spirit was legacy. So I've been getting to do a study on legacy, and I thought it was just good for myself. But God said, hey, take it to your people, take it to your folks. So I'm bringing it to my family, to my friends, to my kinfolk, whoever you might be out there, you know what I mean? So who listen to I Feel Like Talk podcast, which I appreciate it so much that you get on our podcast, whatever it is, my thoughts, whatever. I appreciate it so much, and I thought I'd bring it to you. And I want to take some time out and talk about legacy, if we can, talk about what legacy means. And for me, let's start here. A long time ago, I heard something from one of my pastor friends, Pastor Tyrone Marshall. He said something that made sense. He says, most people live in the United States 80 years. So you have 80 years, your children has 80 years, and then your grandchildren have 80 years. And he says so that means you have the ability to impact 240 years. I begin to think, my God, he says you have the ability to impact 240 years. So then my thought was, what am I doing? The decisions, the choices, the things I'm doing, what am I doing to help impact these 240 years? So I want to talk about that. And the 240 years for me, it represents legacy. It represents you have the ability to help set the temperature for 3 generations, your generation, your children's generation, and your grandkids' generation. So let's talk about legacy today. That's what we're going to talk about, the legacy today. Legacy isn't a new idea. It's basically the central of the Bible. If you look back at the Bible, one of the central points or the central viewpoints was God was always talking about legacy. You think about God didn't say, I am God only. He said, I am the God of Abraham. I am the God of Isaac, and I am the God of Jacob. Why was he saying that? He said, I'm the God of generations. I'm the God of your grandfather's generation, your father's generation, and your generation. So for us, our mindset should always be, literally, I am leaving a legacy not only for my life, but I'm leaving a legacy for my children's life, and I'm leaving a legacy for my grandkids' life. So then it says, let you know, legacies. If God said it, we know for a fact legacy matters. So we have to make a decision. How do we want to impact the world that God called us to? From Genesis to Revelations, we see stories passed down, promises carried forward, faith inherited, and at times lost by those who came after it. So we see throughout the Bible, it talks about, we believe that you be blessed coming in, blessed going out. Everything with generations and generations lived our legacy from Abraham to Jacob to Isaac and moving on. But here it is, another thing. Here it is. Let me ask you this question. This is what the American Heritage Dictionary defines legacy as something handed down from an ancestor or predecessor. Yes, sometimes it's money and it's land. But other times, literally, the most impactful legacy isn't material. It's your spiritual, it's your character, your moral, it's your spiritual walk, it's how you operate. Those are the most impactful things that we leave the generation. So let's talk about this. Let's get into what are the 3 main areas of legacy that, just me thinking about it, that impacts my generation, my children's generation, and my grandkids' generation. What's the most impactful ways or things to? Number 1 is our character and morals. I'll say that again. The one thing that we leave in legacy is our character and our morals. What values are you passing down? Ask yourself that question. What values are you passing down? Are you teaching your kids how to hustle and grind and get that money, but not how to honor? Are you showing them how to pray under pressure or just how to post under pressure? Then we're quick to post, but are we quick to pray under pressure? Your character becomes, look at this, your children's curriculum. Well, a lot of times, back in the days, your parents used to be like, and I don't think we say much because we heard so much from my grandparents and our parents. Don't do what I say. Don't do what I say. Do what I say, not what I do. No, your kids are watching what you do and watching what you say, and they're looking a lot of times to see if those things are adding up. So it's important for our life that we realize that our life is our children's character, our curriculum. Our life is our children's curriculum. Our character is our children's curriculum. They're looking at the way we operate. They're looking at we walk in love. They're looking at are we patient? Are we kind? They're looking at how we are in front of other people and how we are in our homes. Our character literally is our children's curriculum. Your integrity can open doors more than your inheritance. Your character opens more doors than any inheritance. You can give money, you can give cars, planes, cars, and all those things to people. If they don't have a character, I mean, that's not going to last at all. So your character, it literally opens up more doors than your any inheritance. Number two, the second thing that we leave a legacy. So we leave a legacy. The first is our literally our character, our core values, our morals. Those are the first things that we do. Then number two is our finances. How we leave a legacy when it comes to our finances. I've been in so many times where people passed away and they left their children with debt, or they left their children with bills and left their children with nothing. So you know what I mean. So I think it's so important for us to leave a legacy. We should always leave this earth better than what we came. I'll say this again. We should always leave this earth better than what we came. Here's the truth. Money talks, but legacy echoes. Money talks, but legacy echoes. Money got a lot of talk. I can do this. I got this. Da, da. But when you leave a legacy of finances, it echoes into eternity. That you think, but I don't want my children's children to ever suffer. That you set up a legacy of financial breakthrough, legacy of financial literacy, legacy of financial literally practices and principles that literally will cause your children to be on, when you leave this, they're left on top. Your grandkids are left on top, not wanting, not scrapping or starting at the beginning or starting at the bottom like you did. That's their beginning should be greater than where you came in. Look, wealth does not pass through generations. That's what old Chinese proverb says, that wealth does not pass through generations. And you think about it, there's always that first generation that we've seen with our kids. A lot of our parents, they were struggling. They struggled in school. They struggled to get a job. They struggled to have cars. They started from the bottom, but they made a decision. I'm not going to be like my parents. I'm not going to start being on welfare for the rest of my life. I'm going to get an education. I'm going to do this. And we've seen them build from nothing. They begin to build and grind. Some of your parents had 2 jobs. They got off 1 job, came home, make sure you was home, and went back to work. Or some of you were latchkey kids because your parents had to work double shifts and you had to stay home and make sure the kids, and you seen your parents take you from nothing. They started businesses. They worked on jobs where they began to get promotion, and so to the place that you had a better opportunity. And that's when that second generation comes in. A lot of those second generations, they saw the values and the core values of their parents. They saw the struggle. They saw but then they also saw the results of their struggle. They saw the results of them moving forward, and so they now had a different platform. They had a different viewpoint. They saw the struggle. So then, hey, I'm going to college. And a lot of the kids, our generation, went to college and got educations and went to universities and went to the government and got better for the family. So now they're no longer struggling. They can pay the bills. They can go on vacations. They can kids wear better clothes. They go to private schools. So that second generation, we was able to take some of the values and core values of our first generation and build it up where we are now. So now here it is, that third generation, they don't know struggle. They haven't seen struggle. They have not experienced struggle. They have not been in struggle. All they always knew was literally, all they know was shine. All they know is on top. If I want some shoes, my mama buy me. If I want some, I want some iPhone, my mother's going to buy it. If it break down, okay, they got it. I need some money. If I run out of money, because they don't know struggle. They have not gone to a place where they had to learn how to do it on their own or learn how to maintain on their own. So here that we see that third generation, they only saw shine, and often, literally, they begin to waste stuff now. They don't have, like, do you know how much money that costs? Why did you wear those shoes outside? You know how much those shoes cost? You know that? Why did you? I just bought you a car and you wrecked your second car. And they're like, oh, you buy me another one? No, it was work. It took money, grind. So we have to get to a place that literally we have to grind. So what happens is, the scary thing is, when we get to the fourth generation, a lot of times they are starting back at zero. Where our grandparents started. They started back at zero, and here it is. Now the cycle has to reset, so they have to learn how to build. But we got to change that. That second generation has to put work in and grind. The second generation has to not only work on their character and morals, but have to work on their finances. That second generation has to get back to believing God and taking the children and let the children know that it is God that we have all this money. It's God that we are. That second generation has to get to a place that they got to know that now they have to begin to reset early so your third generation and fourth generation continue to build. Now you should be teaching your children, hey, now you should be building up your morals, your values, your character for not only your generation, but the next generation after. We shouldn't start wait till fall all the way off. You should start now. I'm teaching my daughter character. I'm teaching my daughter how to be a good friend. I'm teaching my daughter how to take care of finance. I'm teaching my daughter how not to always spend all her money. We're starting those things now so that now when she's growing up, she now can teach her children so we can reset earlier in that second generation, that third generation, that we can be better. The Bible says this in Proverbs 13:22. A good man leaves an inheritance, look at this, to his children's children. He leaves his inheritance for his children's children. So we should be building an inheritance to our children's children, and we should be teaching our children and our children's children how to build an inheritance for their generation. That's a long-term vision, not just how much but how we manage and mentor. We should be, now think about now, I'm grinding, getting the back, but how are we managing the time? How are we managing our life? How are we working on our character? How are we working on our way of life, our walk with God? How we manage our finance? How do we manage those things? And then now we should be mentoring that second and the third generation to be better than when we was. The third thing, so we say number one, we leave a legacy for our character and our morals. Number two, we say we leave a legacy for our finances. And number three, we should be leaving a legacy on our walk with God. It's so important. Let's be real. If you passed on everything else, your finances, the morals, but not for your faith, what do we really leave? I know for a fact that the generations of our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our great-grandparents, all they had was God. All they had was community in God. They was always in church. They was always believing God. They was always releasing their faith. They was always doing this, that. They knew it was God that took care of them. It was God that they had. They knew it was supernatural that they had the money in the bank. Knew it was supernatural that they was able to feed their kids. And they began to take down a generation and generation. But do we stop our generation moving forward that we forget those things? Or are we leaving a legacy of faith? Or do we leave a legacy of faith where we know for a fact it is, yes, we might have, yes, we don't have to struggle like our grandparents and but we know all that we have is from our ancestors and how they believe God, and all we have, and now we took those same principles and we believe God. That's why in my household we give, because we know for a fact, well, our grandparents and our great-grandparents, they gave unto God, and God took care of them. It wasn't just what they had in the pot, but God has a supernatural ability to now manifest and multiply what God put on his side. We have to know that God has for, and we got to leave a legacy of faith. We got to believe in prayer. We got to release the faith of God. We got to believe in the grace of God. We got to believe in the word of God. The word still works, and it's important for us in our generation that we leave a legacy of faith for our kids. And sometimes we like, hey, let them know. We got to let them know it's because of God our family is where it is. It's because of God our grandparents are where they came out of. It's because of God that all they had on. So us to move forward, you cannot live this life without God. You cannot live this life without a community in church. And you can't live this life without being with God. You have to now continue the legacy that got you where he is. Sometimes we get somewhere and we forget what God is there. I always look at what Timothy says in literally in 2 Timothy 1:5. I love this. It was Paul talking to Timothy about his family. He said, I think of your strong faith that was passed down, through your family line. And it began with your grandmother Louise, who passed it down to your dear mother Eunice. And it's clear that you are too following in the footsteps of godly example. So here it is. You can see a generation, a legacy of faith that went from Timothy's grandmother, Timothy's mother, to even his own life. The Bible said he had strong faith. He said your strong faith came from not just what you prayed on stuff. It would literally pass down for generation to generation. You are living in a legacy of faith. We should be leaving a legacy of faith that when you leave this earth, people through your children and your children's children say, hey, my God, because of your faith of your grandfather, your faith of your father, Lord, I see where you are now, and I see that you've taken on those same principles, taken on those same values, the core values, and same walk with God, same belief in and relying, depending, trusting in God. They took on those same values on your own life. Now I see your life. There should be a pattern. There should be a blueprint that's passed down that people can look at your life and they can compare it to your grandkids' life. They can compare it to your children's life. That you left a legacy of faith. Remember, this word says that in Romans 12, 1-7, it says, reminds us to live a life surrendered, transformed, and aligned with God's will. That's the kind of legacy that shifts bloodline. That the kind of faith that still speaks when you're no longer in the room. You could be passed away 50 years. You could be in heaven for 100 years, but people still remember the bloodline. You come from the Taylor bloodline. You come from whatever the bloodline may. And I mean, these people, y'all, but they believe God. They believe God for their household. They believe God for their church. They believe God for their community. And they saw, not only did they believe, they saw the results of it. And you come from that pedigree. That's your bloodline. That you have come from a legacy of believers. You come from a legacy that people, no matter what they say, it comes to pass when it's in the will of God. I mean, that's the bloodline that we should be leaving. Legacy isn't just about how many people know your name. It's about whether heaven knows your bloodline or heaven knows your family line. The Bible talks about a great cloud of witnesses. There's a great cloud of witnesses looking down. Hey, I did this. I paved the way that you can live. A lot of our ancestors paved the way of faith, paved the way of living for God, believing God, and things that you don't have to go through. They prayed for you. They prayed for generations that the devil wouldn't come on you. The devil wouldn't be messing with you. Even in the heaven, they praying for you, believing God for you. And here it is. Your legacy is speaking on your behalf. And now here it is. You should be praying for your children and praying for your grandkids that the same God that saved you, the same God that brought you out of drugs and alcohol, the same God that gave you strength and to keep pushing forward, that same God will do that for your children. The same God will do that for your grandkids. You got to have a legacy of faith. So yes, we have to have a legacy of our core values and morals and things like that. We should believe this earth better than we have, and we should have a legacy of finance where we should be taking responsibility for our faith and taking responsibility for our finances and take responsibility for what we have and don't have, take responsibility and put systems and processes in place and put insurances and get all those things in place. Yes, but the first and the third but most important thing we should leave a legacy of faith. We know it was God that saved us. We know God that set us free. It was God that brought your mother and your father out of circumstances. It was God them praying. It was knowing your grandparents waking up early in the morning praying on your behalf and walking the floors on your behalf, tearing down the strongholds of the enemy. We have to leave a legacy of faith for our children. We should be grabbing them by their hands and praying with them. We should be praying for their kids and praying for their spouses now. We should be believing God for them. And there should be a legacy of faith. So I'm going to leave this segment. I want to leave this time which I have, and I thank God for the time that I have for you. I thank you for taking time out to listen to me. But I'm going to leave you with a question. What are you building that will stand after you're gone? What are you building that will stand after you're gone? Will your kids know how to pray? Will your grandkids walk in purpose, or will they wander in confusion? Will your financial foundation you lay outlast trends, trauma, drama, and time? Look at this. I love Miles Monroe. He says, you cannot pass down what you haven't lived out. It's so important for us now. We live out some things. We got to coming out from living paycheck to paycheck. We got to have a savings. We got to be able to believe God and see God more. We got to work on our character and not just who you are. You don't have to live that same way with being nasty and evil and being disrespectful all your life. You can change the way you are. It is never too late to change. What great testimony is that? I see my father start off this way. I see my mother start off with, but before they left the earth or before they changed, they became a better version of themselves. It's never too late to become a better version of yourself, but not just for yourself, but for your kids and for your grandkids. And you might say, Pastor Damon, I don't have no kids yet. But how many know there's people that's watching you? There's people in your job that's watching. There's people in your community that's watching. There's people in your church that's watching. There's people in your family that are watching you. And they should be watching you become the best version of yourself. And then they should be eating off of your fruit, or they should be eating off of your character, eating off the principles and the values and the conversation that you're having with them, that they could become a better person. Listen, we only have one life to live. So let's use this life to build a legacy. Let's build upon our legacy. Now, I don't care if you're 20 years old, I don't care if you're a teenager, 15, 16, but your goal should be in life. I'm going to leave this life the better than what it came. And I'm going to leave it better in people that I love, for my children and my children's children, for whoever might be around me. I'm going to do everything I can to leave a legacy of life, leave it better than one. But there's certain things that we should be doing. I think these are the most important. It's not just making a name for yourself, but how can I help others be better than what they were called to be and do? How do I do that? So here it is. I want to leave you with 3 things that you can do. The first thing that you can do is I want you to write down 3 core values that you live by. And I want those, and these 3 core values is something that you can pass down. You can begin to pass down to your children, pass down to your children's children. If you have grandkids, pass them down to your family, pass down your nieces, nephews, everybody that you come in contact with. Your 3 core values that you will continue to develop and you become. Those core values. The second thing that you could do is, we can all start now writing a living will. Hey, this is not only for finances, but write a will. Hey, this is what I believe. This is how I believe it. I think this is so important that keeps our family name. We are people of love. We are people who work on to be transformed, not staying where they are, being willing to be transformed in the way they feel, choose, and act. Wherever your core values are, now put that in a living will. Put that in a living will for yourself and for those that are reading. Well, he said the Bible says, write the vision, make it plain, and those that read it, they can run with it. So write that down. We're gonna call it. We're gonna call it a legacy letter. And that legacy letter literally is gonna be, okay, these are core values that we have. These are things that we believe in. These are things I know for a fact that are proven that can go through generations. How can we move? And the third is, every single day, make sure you do something better for your life. Because when you become better for your life, your children become better in their life, and your grandkids become better in your life. I just think this conversation is so needed. Legacy is not about perfection. It's about intention. I'm intentionally changed. I'm intentionally thinking about my finances, thinking about how I'm going to set it up for my daughter and my grandkids. And I'm intentionally doing things that, I know what it is to have this and know what it is not to have. So you know what? I'm not really pressed over that. But what can I do to set up that my kids and my grandkids can have better? Intentionally think about, I've gotten off the things that God, my walk with God has not been where it needs to be at. But now this time, I'm going to start going after the things of God, going after the walk with God. Serving in my local church, serving in my local community, being the best that I can be. So now the generations after me can be better, and I'm not leaving it worse. I'm believing it better. Intentionally working on my character. I know for a fact I'm always late to work. Let me work on this week. This whole week I'm gonna be on time or even early for work, ready to work. You have to work on those characters. You have to work intentionally changing for the better. Let's build something that's worth remembering. Well, I want people to remember me for the good stuff, not just the bad stuff. I want people to remember where, hey, he started off this way, but this is where he is now. I want to be remembered for something better. And I think that's so important where we are right now. I just thought it was important for me to take time out to talk about legacy and take time out to talk about how we move forward. I think this is important for where we're going and what God is doing. There's so much stuff in this world that brings pressure. There's so much stuff that brings struggle. And it gives us this world system makes it easy for us to give up, makes it easy to accept certain things. But come on, let's fight to be better. Let's fight to make the world around us better while we're here. And then let's fight to make the world a better place. But when we leave this place, it was better because we were here. You now have the opportunity to affect 240 years. How can I do that? By leaving a legacy for my children's children, that they know for a fact that core values when it comes to my finances, core values when it comes to my morals, core values when it comes to literally the way I walk with God, it will impact 240 years. You're not better till you be better. So be better. I love y'all so much. Thank you for taking time out to listen to this. Listen, my name is Damon. This is what I do. I feel like talking.